So when SpaceX rolled out its latest Starship prototype, SN24, to the launch pad, people who follow this stuff closely noticed something, well, something that shouldn't have been there. It's a feature that wasn't in any of the official pictures, and it's got the entire space community buzzing.
And look, this tiny little slot on the side of the world's most powerful rocket, it's not just some minor detail. It's actually the key to SpaceX's entire strategy for their next-generation satellites, and it points to a massive problem the company needs to solve, like, yesterday.
You know, for years, we've all seen those cool animations of Starship, right? With that giant clamshell-style payload door ready to open up and deploy huge things into orbit. But when the real hardware finally showed up, what we got was, well, something very, very different.
I mean, the difference here is just night and day. We were all expecting this huge, gaping door, and instead SN24 has this skinny, almost letterbox-like slot. And this isn't just some small design tweak, it's a huge shift from the original idea. And it tells us that Starship has a very specific and very urgent first mission.
Think about it. SpaceX has a history of some pretty fun test payloads, right? The first Dragon capsule, it carried a wheel of cheese. The first Falcon Heavy, it launched Elon Musk's own Tesla Roadster into deep space. But with Starship, no games this time. They are skipping all the theatrics because the mission-critical payload they have to launch is their own.
So what's it all about? Well, this weird-looking door was built for one thing and one thing only: launching the next generation of SpaceX's Starlink internet satellites. Yep, this slot is basically a custom-built satellite launcher for the new Starlink version 2s. See, the new satellites are just so much bigger and more capable that they literally cannot fit inside the nose cone or fairing of a Falcon 9 rocket. So without Starship and this special slot, the entire Starlink expansion is basically dead in the water. And just look at the size difference here. It really puts the problem into perspective. The original Starlinks were about 3 meters long. The new V2s, they're a massive 7 meters, more than double the size. This huge jump is exactly why Starship suddenly went from being a long-term dream to a we-need-this-right-now business emergency.
Okay, so we get why the slot is there. But that just brings up the next big question. How does it work? How in the world is SpaceX going to shoot dozens of these enormous satellites out of a tiny little opening, all while floating in the vacuum of space?
Well, Elon Musk himself gave it a nickname that's actually perfect. He calls it the Pez Dispenser. And honestly, that's a surprisingly good way to think about it. The whole idea is to stack these satellites vertically inside Starship's payload bay, just like those little candies in a Pez dispenser. But the real trick is getting this to work in 0G. See, without gravity to help, an electric mechanism has to actively push the stacks of satellites down toward the slot. Then a second mechanism shoves the satellites out, 2 at a time. It's like this complex robotic ballet happening inside the rocket. And you know, even though this sounds like something straight out of science fiction, Musk revealed the inspiration is actually pretty down to earth. The whole thing was inspired by industrial pallet stackers, the kind of thing you'd see in a warehouse. It's such a classic SpaceX move, right? Taking a simple, proven idea and applying it to a crazy new problem. All right, so deploying the satellites is one huge puzzle. But that just brings up another one. How do you even load them into the rocket in the first place, especially once it's already stacked on the launch pad? And this is where it gets really clever. The whole system is designed to just run in reverse. They can use the exact same slot and the same mechanism to literally pull the stacks of satellites into Starship before launch. It's just a really smart solution that means they don't have to crack open the whole vehicle.
And you know what? This also solves another mystery down at the Starbase facility. People spotted this strange cube-like building, and it turns out it's a mobile clean room. The plan is to lift this cube up to Starship, have it line up perfectly with the slot, and create a totally clean space for loading those delicate satellites into the dispenser.
So what's the bottom line here? What's the capacity? Right now, the estimate is that Starship can launch 54 of these giant V2 satellites at a time. Now, that number might sound similar to what a Falcon 9 carries, but remember, each V2 satellite is way, way more powerful. So it's a massive upgrade in bandwidth with every single flight.
Now, this might make you think, hang on a second, didn't they used to say Starship could carry 120 satellites? And you're right, that old number really shows you how much this plan has changed. It probably means either the V2 satellites ended up being way heavier than they originally thought, or that future versions of Starship are going to need an even bigger payload bay to hit that original target.
So all of this incredible engineering, all this problem solving, it's all building towards one single massive event, the very first orbital flight test of a fully stacked Starship.
But before we get there, SpaceX still has a bit of a to-do list. They're still waiting on their final launch license, they need to finish putting together the super heavy booster, and then, of course, they have to run a whole bunch of tests. If everything goes smoothly, we could see an attempt sometime from September 2025 onwards. But you know how it is with rockets, those timelines can definitely shift.
So in the end, when this Starship finally roars to life, we're not just going to be watching another rocket launch. We'll be watching the first real test of this completely new deployment system, this Pez dispenser for space that is absolutely vital for SpaceX's future. This one flight could really redefine how we build the next generation of infrastructure in orbit, one satellite at a time.